elected that is a very real threat that you're going to have to deal with. How will you address that after you're elected if you win?
I will address that threat for what it is. It is a threat.
It's time for a change. And that change is Zohran Mamdani. Let's talk about it.
Is not the law. And too often we treat everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth as if it is already legal just by virtue of who is saying it. And it is time to finally stand up to the bullies that make these threats, not to become the bullies ourselves. And we've seen time and time again that the best way to respond to Donald Trump and to defeat these kinds of threats is to actually stand up and fight back. You've seen leaders across this country who have shown their unwillingness to compromise on their own morals and their own values as the way in which they fight back. And too often what we found in New York City is instead a willingness to capitulate and coordinate.
New York City mayoral candidates Zohran, Democrat, Andrew Cuomo, Independent, and Curtis Sliwa, a Republican. There's been quite a buzz about Zohran. Now we're hearing the President of the United States will withhold funding to New York just because this man might get elected. You're hearing Elon Musk call him a swindler on the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm seeing various celebrities and high visibility individuals smearing his name. I didn't know much about him before that. So I want to say to all of you, including our president, thank you very much for making me aware of this man. He is a democratic socialist, similar to AOC or Bernie Sanders, not a communist. Okay, I'm learning more and more that it is important to define people properly, to define their beliefs properly, especially when, as you see here, democratic socialism explicitly rejects authoritarian forms of socialism and the one-party rule seen in Marxist-Leninist states, historical communist countries. So if you are a democratic socialist, you are very much against authoritarianism. See what is happening with the current state of our country. It is time for a change. Let's keep going. They all seem to have kind of similar goals, community focused, safety focused, and local business focused. So on a surface level, they all sound like you could choose any one of them depending on how you kind of lean on their tactics. But then you get to the controversies. I will start with Andrew Cuomo. I do not expect my videos to get that many hits from this point on. In case you all have forgotten, he is involved in a sexual harassment scandal, which is why he resigned from being governor in the first place. It was found that he had sexually harassed at least 11 women. I am surprised he's even running for any office after just knowing that. I don't understand what he's even doing. I might be misinterpreting stuff. You let me know. But if that guy somehow wins the race, I would be well. Okay, let's talk about controversy surrounding Curtis Sliwa. I want to say before I start reading what's behind me, this guy's been around for a long time. The Guardian Angels, from what I understand, is a bit of a vigilante group that runs around cracking down on crime in New York. That's why you see him wearing that red beret. Raspberry beret. Anyways, but as you can see from reading behind me, his tactics appear to be a bit heavy-handed, where in 2024, he and his fellow Guardian Angels were involved in a controversy after they physically accosted a man they wrongly accused of being a shoplifter during a live television interview. Police found no evidence that the man had been shoplifting, and he is identified as a New York City resident. This thing right here about the bribery allegations, I don't know if I would call this necessarily a bad thing if I'm reading this correctly, but it sounds like Andrew Cuomo's people offered him money, and he said no. Unless he was telling us porkies. If he was telling us porkies, then okay. Also, apparently, way back in the day, he and his red beret people. I'm not trying to make fun of Guardian Angels. I just see him with that red beret. Anyway, they had fabricated a handful of crimes to make themselves look good. So perhaps dishonest, perhaps heavy handed. Okay. Okay, so to recap, you have a man accused of sexual assault, and you have a man accused of not being so honest and again, heavy handed. Okay, let's talk about his controversies. One, he's not a fan of Israel, not a fan of the leadership and what they are doing currently, which I seeing kids eat dirt, seeing what Israel's doing right now to that country, I, I I'm right there with them. If that's a controversy, whole if you think that's a controversy that somebody would hate the starving and destruction of a people, I don't know what that says about you. I don't know. So that's one. Two, he didn't at first condemn the term globalized intifada, which is more about Israel and Palestine. Apparently, there was two major intifadas. It's basically Palestinian uprisings against Israel. One was more peaceful than the other by quite a bit, from what I understand. We're talking about self-unaliving kerpluies. I'm trying to say words that won't get this video deprioritized, but I think it will. I think I will anyways. But I want this. I want to talk about this. Apparently, he also called the Hindu assemblywoman a puppet of Hindu fascists, which I want to talk about that more in a different video. But I will say I learned just recently there is also a term like Christian nationalism. There is indeed Hindu nationalism, and so I am very curious. But for another video, just keep that in mind. Another controversy. I'm not even gonna read the communist and nut job stuff. We already kind of went over that. Again, definitions are important. They are. His political platform itself, taxing the rich. Now, I think that might be one of the reasons, aside from the Israel stance, why he's really not being sought after by certain groups of people. I think that's my only problem with his plan. I really like his platform and all the things of which he wants to offer, but I think a lot of that will depend on if he can indeed get that money from the rich. That's the only thing that has me going. I don't know. Can you do that? I don't know if I'd call him a swindler for it. If that's what old Elon meant, I don't know if that's what I would call that. But I sure do hope that's not just wishful thinking. I hope he can actually execute upon that. He also has had various comments about the police as well. And I'm asking all of you New Yorkers out there, what do you think about the police there? I'm sure I'll get mixed results, but my point is, I'm sure there's a good number of you that might agree with his comments. My point is, again, here, I don't know if I would call this necessarily a controversy unless you were somebody who had values like the values of which I'm hiding behind my head. Oh yeah, and he's very openly Muslim. I can't get out of my head. I need to watch the Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk talking about Zoran, but I couldn't help but wonder. This is a man talking about Elon here who bought Twitter just as a flex and to be able to say whatever he wanted to say, got rid of half of the company. I'm still on that. And then paid his way into the government, tried to pay for another seat in Michigan, tore apart so many services, laying off so many people, cutting off so many people from services and systems. We have not forgotten Elon. Just to name a few things, and he's calling Zoran a swindler, pot calling the kettle black. I don't understand where he gets off saying that. I don't get it. Then Donald Trump, 34 felonies, one for each of the transactions he made to his lawyer, of which that lawyer apparently gave that money to Stormy Daniels. And then that lawyer, Michael Cohen, later on pled guilty for misusing campaign funds, talking about the 2016 Donald Trump campaign. These people apparently don't know what controversies are. That's what I don't understand. If you are somehow more okay with a man that has been found to have at least sexually harassed 11 women over a man who would love to give universal child care and access to transportation and lowering food prices. I don't mean to make Zoran sound all super flowery. Just looking at what we just read here, Zoran's obviously the man for the job. Again, if he can get that taxing to happen, that's why you have so many rich people saying they want to leave the state. They likely won't, right? Let's see if they do. Thank you again. to our president for making me aware of him. I wish him the best of luck, and I will talk to you later.